Everybody. County Executive Josh Schoemann here. Welcome to another edition of WashCo Weekly. And this week we're going to talk a little bit about organizational structure. Kind of boring, I'll admit, but there's been a lot of changes that have happened in the last several weeks. And I've been talking about them for quite some time. About 2 months ago now, I did some town halls here in the county at our campus with all of our county employees. And we talked about all kinds of things that are up and coming, and I took about a half hour of question and answer from people at just about every one of those sessions. We did probably close to a half dozen of them. A lot of the conversation revolved around what does the future look like? And much like everybody else in the world right now, talking about what the impacts of AI are. Well, that was part of the conversation, but another important part of the conversation really came from one-on-one discussions I've been having with county board supervisors since the election this last April. And we have a handful of new people, but every 2 years I do those conversations. And this time a recurring theme was AI, yes, but more about communicating with the community and with our organization. How can we better do that? So today's Tuesday, we rolled out a number of new changes to our organizational structure that are aimed at addressing exactly those two things. The biggest one is we've changed how our cabinet structure works. And I'm going to just show you this just so you have an idea. As boring as it might be, here's our new organizational structure. What you're going to see is we used to have a chief administrative officer. We now have a chief innovation officer and a chief legal officer. And those two areas are going to be a big focus for what we talk about in the rest of this discussion, as is our chief operating officer. So here in Washington County, we are set up just a little bit differently than most counties. We've got very corporate structure, hence all of the chiefs. They comprise the cabinet. There used to be 5 of them. There are now 6 as of today. But there's a number of changes that go with how this new corporate structure is going to function. First, that chief innovation officer. So Aaron Dahl, historically our chief administrative officer, is now our chief innovation officer. And his focus, while historically was internally focused, the customer service departments, I like to say, customers being the folks here within the county walls, as opposed to citizen service departments, those serving those outside of the county walls. Aaron's focus had been internally focused. Now, as Chief Innovation Officer, he'll have a much broader scope, addressing that concern that I heard from county board supervisors about being more communicative, both within the organization and outside of the organization. So many of you know that on a quarterly basis, we do listening sessions all across the county. We usually do a handful of them, a half a dozen every quarter. Now we want to emphasize those. The most recent is coming up here in the month of August. We have 5 listening sessions that will occur. We'll give you a link here to those. Check those out, but we're going to really focus in on this fire and EMS conversation that we're having in the county. In the future, those will be helped to be facilitated by our Chief Innovation Officer and his area of departments that will now include our Community Development Department. So whether it's a discussion community at large about fire and EMS, or whether it's a discussion about AI at large, or whether it's a discussion about some other hot issue of the day, that department is going to help us focus on getting feedback and input from the community, and then bringing that back to policymakers to help them formulate public policy, send it back out to the community before public policy is finally created. So huge change. Most governments, county, municipal, state, federal, they don't have quite that type of a engagement type of a process. But I've heard it loud and clear from county board supervisors. I've heard it loud and clear from constituents throughout the county that they want more opportunities to engage, and we're going to produce exactly that. Then we add the new component of the chief legal officer. The county attorney is a position that is appointed and reports to the county executive. Having that individual now as a member of the cabinet, I think, is a really important step forward, and bringing them into the organization, that customer service focus of county departments specifically through the human resources lens is going to be really important. And then chief operating officer. This is probably the biggest for those people who are impacted by this internally. The human resources functions, the finance functions, kind of those things that touch every department, those are going to be overseen now by the chief operating officer, and that is Scott Schmidt, our highway commissioner, formerly chief public works officer. The other few cabinet positions that I should touch on are our Chief Land Use and Planning Officer. That used to be our Chief Community Development Officer. So Community Development Department has now moved over to the Chief Innovation Officer. So other than that, there's not a lot of large changes in that particular area. And then our Chief Health and Human Services Officer and our Chief Public Safety Officer, those two largely remain untouched. Certainly all of these cabinet members have been a key to having this conversation to what those changes might be. And then last but not least is the County Executive's Office. Number of changes in the County Executive's Office. Hopefully none that impact you as constituents, but we will have a few changes to how actually communications works. Some of them have already been implemented. And our executive assistant is making a huge move, going to go work in the sheriff's office. So that's sad for us, happy for her. Lots of changes, lots of things coming at you. Certainly something that has been a work in progress, but it's been months in the making. We've been talking about this in earnest for the last several months, but we've been working on it for the better part of the last year. So really excited to get things going off the ground today. Lots of changes that came with it, some of them sad. But new beginnings nonetheless. So very excited to see where this goes. But our focus, first and foremost, is on you, the people of Washington County. And we look forward to taking care of our employees on the way who are here to serve you. Tune in next time for the next WashCo Weekly.